Hey everybody, this is Marcel Patu, and this is another edition of the original Free Kick, previewing the upcoming contest between Atlanta United and Nashville SC. As always, if you want to follow everything that we're doing, head to the mothership, the sportsinquirer.net, premier site for news and notes in the world of sports. You can also go to our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under Sports Inquirer. That's all one word. Make sure you do a search on there. Follow us, subscribe to us, and you'll be able to keep track of all the things that we have going on. And finally, subscribe to our audio and video content providers such as YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and iTunes. Do a search for us there in Sports Inquirer. And if you like us and follow us, you can get updates on everything that we have going on. On this edition of the original Free Kick, we will preview Atlanta United's upcoming contest against Nashville SC. I think they're SC. I'm looking up right now because I always get these confused. Toronto throws me off the FC, and then my favorite one is Montreal, CF Montreal, because it's French, and you have to be a little bit different with Montreal and everything like that. But I want to make sure I have it accurately correct. And I like Nashville. Nashville SC. I was correct. Good. I've been meaning to head up there. I went to school in Nashville, college and graduate work. I spent 7 years living there, and it is interesting to see the new team there as far as soccer goes. I know where the new stadium is going to be, where they're trying to build it, which I think is still taking place. You don't know what everything is going on. It's going to be near the fairgrounds, which is right near downtown Atlanta, which is pretty downtown Nashville. But they play right now. I call it Nissan Stadium or LP Field, where the Titans play. So that's a good location. I've spent many a time there over the years. But it is good to see the support that the team is getting, and they're having a very solid year overall. I guess are they technically an expansion franchise anymore? I don't think they are. I guess Austin would take over as because they're the newest team in the league. They're the new expansion squad. Some would say Atlanta's still an expansion squad, even though they're in their fourth year or they're in the midst of their fifth year. But yeah, it's a good matchup between. It's supposed to be rivalry weekend also for MLS. Normally, Atlanta will be facing Orlando as the rival, but Orlando is facing Miami, I believe, tonight before we record the show. We're recording this, by the way, on August 27th, and the match takes place August 28th, the one that we're previewing. So Nashville is the natural rival for Atlanta. The cities are less than 4 hours apart. It's an easy drive. But Nashville's actually started off their MLS time in the Western Conference, which is different than Atlanta, which has been the Eastern Conference. And it's very tough to have your rival in different conferences. But with the realignment, everything with the pandemic starting last year, they transferred Nashville over to the Eastern Conference. And we'll see if that sticks around. I would like to see that happen because that's a really natural trip. Technically by mileage, Nashville is closer than Orlando is. You associate state of Georgia and Florida, it's a border war, but Georgia and Tennessee, similar deal. And it's actually a quicker trip, an easier trip. I have family in Orlando. I prefer the trip to Nashville. It's a straight drive. You go up 75, you get 24. It's really 2, 3 highways, and you are right there in Nashville. But enough about all of that. Before we get to that matchup, let's go over what Atlanta's been doing over the past month or so. The Five Stripes are on a 4-match winning streak and unbeaten in their last 5 matches. It's the longest winning streak in team history. Before this winning streak, Atlanta was really far down in the standings towards the bottom half and in the teens as far as Eastern Conference goes. They've moved up the standings and now they're tied for 7th in the Eastern Conference with DC United for the final playoff spot. They've played the same amount of matches, and interestingly enough, they have the same amount of points and played the same amount of matches, but DC United has a goal differential advantage. They're at +1 while Atlanta, is at -1. So that's the only reason that DC United is ahead of Atlanta in the standings, despite Atlanta having a head-to-head win over DC United, which just took place a few nights ago. We were able to speak with Ronald Hernandez, midfielder for Atlanta United, on the winning streak and what's been the biggest difference in the team from their slow start to the year to now.
Creo que lo más importante es que los entrenadores sepan la clase de jugadores que tienen y darles la libertad, la confianza y obviamente darles las tareas que cumplan dentro de la cancha. Y sobre todo ser divertido y tratar de sacarlo eso afuera.
I think the most important thing for coaches is to understand the types of players that they have, and then also to be able to give them their responsibilities and also freedom on the field, to help us to do what the team needs to do.
And a big part of that has also been the coaching change, which we'll get to in a moment before we go over the winning streak. But obviously, Gonzalo Pineda is the new manager of the team. The previous manager, who was relieved of his duties, Gabriel Heinze, a few weeks before the winning streak started, and Rob Valentino was promoted to the interim manager, and that's where the team has taken off. But back to the winning streak, that does include a stretch of winning three matches, two home tilts against LAFC and Toronto, respectively, and that road victory at DC United, which included goals from Marcelino Moreno and Joseph Martinez that passed this last Saturday in a 7-day span. So 3 wins over a 7-day period. Really impressive stretch for Atlanta. We spoke with defender Anton Walkes about the team's resolve during that tough stretch of matches that led to wins.
It showed great character, I think, from the whole group, from everyone. I think it's very tough when you're playing every couple of days, because it's hard to rest and repair, and ultimately there's not much time to go over things. So to find that momentum in that short space of span has definitely put us in a good place. And again, we've got a bit of momentum, and all of that don't mean anything if we don't find a way to overcome Nashville this weekend.
And with this, and you have to throw this element in there as well. As I mentioned, Gabriel Heinze was relieved of his duties, dismissed as manager. Rob Valentino, the assistant coach for the team, was promoted. And since he was promoted, that winning streak took place, and an unbeaten streak, which is actually 5 matches. Now he is moving back to the assistant coach role with the hiring of Gonzalo Pineda, the longtime assistant coach for the Seattle Sounders. He is now in Atlanta with a full-time position and ready to go. We were able to speak with Pineda about his first week of training camp with Atlanta. And you have to consider the fact as well that this is not my exposing, not public knowledge. He contracted COVID-19 during his duties with Seattle, and he had to be away from Atlanta for an extended period of time in quarantine, isolation, whatever you want to call it. So his first day of actually being with the team face to face was the 21st of August, which was the same night as that DC United contest. So now he's been in Atlanta the past few days working with the team, being able to interact with them face to face, not over Zoom, not over conference calls, and all of that stuff. So we spoke with Gonzalo Pineda and asked him about his first full week of training with Atlanta and how that's been.
Yeah, well, first of all, adapting is probably the first 3 days in the city, in the community, with the whole organization, with all the areas and departments that we are blessed to have, and adapting to the system, to everything. But overall, with the players, very happy with what I've seen. I think everybody is very professional. Everybody's trying to train at a high level, and we are happy with what we've seen so far.
The biggest question you have, and you mentioned it, adjusting to the team and getting to know the faces and everything like that, getting to know the personalities, tactics. And that's the thing that we as media have been wondering about. We saw with Rob Valentino, the team during his winning streak make some tactical changes in their approach to things. And here's Pineda on overall tactical changes that we may see before we get down to some specifics.
Well, yeah, I mean, the details I would be happy to share at some point, but overall, is for me, football is about creating time and space for players, and that's for me the game. So whether you create that time and space through numerical advantage or positional advantage or qualitative advantage, And that's always the game for me. How do you create a 2v1 here, a 3v2 here, a 4v3 here in certain areas of the field? And that has something to do with the shapes and the movements. But at the same time, I hope the players don't feel like it's been a big change, because that wasn't the idea. I think there's been just little tweaks to what they've been doing. But overall, I would say that I keep kind of the same structure, just with some different ideas, just to create that, what I just said. A numerical advantage here, some guys in certain positions that can create danger, and obviously the talented players that we have with 1v1 situations, right? So just trying to create that for them to perform and to be there, express themselves. And that's the idea. I mean, after that, you will see kind of if you can tell me next week if there were too many changes or not.
The first thing that we saw with this winning streak, as far as tactical changes, is the back line. They were playing under hindsight. They were playing with 4 men in the back line. Now we've seen the development of a 3-man back line consisting of Miles Robinson, Alan Franco, and Walkes during the winning streak. And that's been a big part of the improvement in having Bello as one of the wingers, as one of the wingbacks, and being a guy who can, play both ways, offensively and defensively. And that has really sparked a lot of improvement as far as Atlanta's offensive tactics. You have also benefited, before you acknowledge the defense, you got to acknowledge the offense as well. Being able to play Joseph Martinez, Marcelino Moreno, Ezequiel Barco, and now the new acquisition, Luis Arujo, on the field at the same time. Those 4 offensive-minded players, including Brooks Lennon as well, has been a really big development for Atlanta, and Santiago Sosa as well. Just having a really offensive-minded team and approach to things. So that has been a big factor for Atlanta United. We spoke with Anton Walkes just from our earlier interview. We'll bring another quote in, or another audio clip. Here he is on if changes are coming to the tactical approach from the defensive side of things.
No, more or less, he's kind of just added his ideas to what was doing with us, because it's pretty evident in the past we used to go man for man, and it was completely new to us, and it's something it took time to kind of adapt to, and it's still a work in progress. But I feel like we're going back to basics and what we're more familiar to, and with the addition to what the coach wants from us and what he can add to our games, I think there should be improvements back there now.
Not giving away too much there. Very, very slick by Anton, not doing that. But we did also ask him about making the adjustments in the middle of a season, whether they switched the lineup and everything like that. Here he is on making these adjustments and changes on the fly while you're in the middle of a regular season.
Oh, there are big differences for sure. I think all types of tactical changes, are massive in games, because you don't have much time to think about it. It's easy to go over it, in a meeting room, but ultimately once you step on the field, you've got split seconds to think. And again, we prepared months before the season started playing in one way, and we kind of got used to it just as it changed. So there's still times in games where whether you're not concentrated or you're just used to how things were, you kind of stick to what we used to do. And again, it's going to take a little bit of time. I think we've improved on it, and there is still room for improvement. And again, it's worked, picked up a few clean sheets and some wins, so we'll take it while we can. All the tactical changes are big, every there's no small tactical change, I feel, especially when it's different to what you're accustomed to. So they're big, but again, it's been good so far.
So everyone's being pretty coy about what we're going to see. I think what we're going to see from Atlanta, not only just this Nashville matchup, but just beyond, is, at least for this matchup, you're going to see probably the same lineup that we've seen over the past few matches. Now, Sosa is questionable as far as being able to come back. He picked up a knock, and he may not be able to play in the contest. So we'll see what happens there. But we will also, after this matchup, you're going to have to make some adjustments before their next tilt. The international call ups have come in. Hernandez and Joseph Martinez will be for World Cup qualifying will be called up were called up by the Venezuelan national team. So they will not be with the team after this matchup against Nashville. Same deal with the two American players representing the United States in George Bello and Miles Robinson. So that's going to be very interesting to see how Atlanta handles all of that. But I think the tactics will be the same as far as seeing the same players that we saw in the DC United contest, unless someone picked up an injury that we're not aware of. But before we get to the international break, you have to play Nashville. And as I mentioned, Nashville SC having their strongest season to date in their young history. They currently sit fourth in the Eastern Conference standings and have lost only 2 contests this season, which is a league low. They like to be a very deliberate team, a lot of holding, good possession, and don't allow many leaks as far as their defense. Here is Pineda giving a good breakdown of what you can see tactically from Nashville SC.
In MLS, nothing is easy. Nothing is easy. I mean, every team, they have the piece. Every team has some ways to turn things around and balance, and it's very equal. Very equal. Obviously, yes, Nashville presents some problems in the sense that they have a very specific way to play. They were very comfortable in the 4-4-2. Now, the last couple of games, they've been playing more 5-3-2 with Mokhtar and Sapong, and then 3 very creative and experienced center mids, and then 3 very physical center backs, and obviously their wing backs with all both box-to-box players, aggressive. So obviously there's a challenge there, but I'm very confident also with my team, and what I've seen in the training sessions just make me confident in the team, and that even though Nashville is a great team, I think we are also a good team, and we will see on Saturday.
And that contest takes place on August 28th. It's on Univision, so my Espanol will improve over a 90-minute period as far as watching the contest. But we'll have a recap of that contest and other news in the world of professional soccer. Yes, we know Cristiano Ronaldo is going back to Manchester United. Messi is with PSG. By the time I record this, Mbappe may be with Real Madrid. Pogba, Lord knows where he might end up. This is the loony season of international soccer as far as professionals go, because the transfer window ends, at least for now, until January in a few days. But we're seeing monumental moves all throughout professional soccer. We'll break all of that down on the next original free kick. But yeah, I mean, obviously Ronaldo going to Manchester United. I'm an Arsenal supporter. So once again, Arsenal misses out on a major player, but Ronaldo being back with Manchester United, if I was a neutral, it seems like it makes sense. But we'll break that all down in a future show. But until next time, good fight, good night, and be safe.